like to invite Lauren Majors from Sonder Health, and she's going to talk to us about breastfeeding and lactation and all the amazing magic that Sonder Health does for all the happy mamas out there. Hi, Lauren.
Hello, thank you for the introduction. Hi, happy mamas. It's so great to be here with you today. I hope you can see my screen that I'm sharing with you. It's been an amazing time together today, and it's always really exciting and thrilling when we enter into a new season of parenthood. It's an adventure. And in that adventure, oftentimes we're focused very heavily on the planning and the preparation stages for our new arrival, but we don't always think about what's going to happen on the other side. For instance, we don't always think about, how am I going to feed my baby? What are my goals and hopes and expectations? And many times we discover that the season can be filled with both beautiful moments, but often complex emotions. And I know that that was certainly the case for me. And so I'd love to share with you just 4 memorable moments in my parenting journey. And it really stemmed around the difficulties that I had in feeding my own 3 children. So I had my first child when my husband and I were living in a foreign country. And this is actually the German town where my daughter was born 14 years ago. I had attended a breastfeeding class prior to delivery, and I had read all the books that I could get my hands on at the time, which were not very many. If it puts it in context for you, my daughter was born the year that the first iPhone came out. So access to online information was very different by comparison than it is today. And I wouldn't say that I was overly committed to breastfeeding, but I certainly wouldn't say that I was undercommitted. I just thought, hey, let's have this baby. Let's see what happens. It's going to be great. Well, I was totally unprepared for the fact that when my child was born, she could not latch on to my breast. And what was worse, I didn't speak German. So after delivery, when she didn't latch right away, an English-speaking nurse told me to put my baby on my chest, keep her warm, rest, and just keep trying to latch. And later, another nurse came in and she gave me a breast pump and she gave me instructions, and it was all in German. And I had no idea what to do. So in an effort to communicate, she hooked the pump up to my breast and she tried to show me how it worked. But before I knew it, my nipples were cracked, they were bleeding, and the pain was unbearable. I was pumping not milk, but blood straight into the bottles. And I stayed in the hospital for 5 days like this. On the second night, I remember my baby crying because she had had nothing up until this point, and a nurse had come in and said, your baby's hungry. So we gave what was recommended at the time, and that was glucose and artificial baby milk. And I remembered that I had had the phone number of an American lactation consultant in my folder from that prenatal class. And so I called her at 9 o'clock at night on the phone. Thankfully, she answered. And she talked me through what I could do until I could come see her after my hospital stay. So when I was discharged from the hospital on day 5, I didn't go home. I went straight to her office. And after I left, she talked to me on the phone about every day or every other day until my baby could latch. She taught me how to express my milk, heal my breasts, and finger feed until she could latch, which ended up being at 8 weeks. So this is a picture of us finger feeding expressed milk at about 2 weeks old. And we still had problems after 8 weeks. And in fact, she only nursed on one side until she was about 14 months. And what took me by surprise at this experience was my incredible desire to feed my baby from my own body. It was medically necessary for her to have artificial milk at the time. And my feelings certainly were not about mommy wars or pitting formula against breast milk. It was really at the time about me wanting to sustain and nourish my own child on the outside like I had done when she was on the inside. And at the time, I felt like my body had failed me. And these feelings, they came out of nowhere. They completely took me off guard. And I felt like the system had failed me when I expressed these feelings to several of my physicians and my concerns, and They just told me just to give up and give my baby a bottle without really understanding the deeper issues at play. And when you're a first-time mom, it's really hard to not second guess yourself when you're trying to figure this out for the first time. So I would consider this my first mommy moment. My second came in with the delivery of my second child, and after the first 2 weeks, we were breastfeeding normally, but the difference came at 9 months. So I had a friend that told me that when my baby starts to teeth, if she bites down on you and clamps down, that a really quick way to get her to release is to flick her little cheek, and she'll open up her mouth, and then she'll learn to not bite down in the future. So I took her advice, and what I can tell you was my daughter was so startled that she never latched again. And we tried everything for the next 3 weeks to no avail. So after breastfeeding had gone so well for 9 months, and after all the pain and suffering that I had learned from my first child, I again found myself with another non-latching baby. And it was, again, really disappointing for me. However, I did lean into that incredible skill set of learning how to exclusively pump for the next 5 months for my child. And the community of exclusive pumpers has grown exponentially over the last 5 to 8 years. And with the right support and the right supplies, many women are able to initiate and sustain a really robust milk supply. So my last mommy moment came with feeding my last child. So I was in a position like many women are in the United States where I didn't have much maternity leave, and I went back to work at just 2 weeks postpartum. I was really closely monitoring my son's output and his growth patterns, and I started to notice that he wasn't growing on his own growth curve, and it was becoming increasingly difficult for him to remove milk from the breast well and on his own. I, by this time, was really seasoned in lactation, and I knew quite a bit, and I knew that he had had restrictions in his mouth through the form of a tongue and lip tie. And so I began weighing him at every feed, and I began pumping, leaning into my expert skill set by this point in time. And I started to give him express breast milk through a tube while he was at the breast. And at the time, I discussed this with his pediatrician, but by his own admission, he said he didn't really know much about lactation and he didn't know how to support me. And he wasn't concerned with his weight at the time because I was compensating for him already. So we had his ties removed by a pediatric dentist, and because I had been weighing him every feed, I knew exactly how much he was taking. And what I can tell you is that on the day of his reversal, he started removing 50% more milk in half the time, and very quickly started growing and hitting his own growth curve right where he needed to be. Here's an example of what I see in everyday real life. I see women looking for support and trying to find help, trying to find where to go, but they're still struggling. I see them turning to the internet for help and information. I see women that have major issues like mastitis. They live in rural communities. They don't always have urgent care centers, and they need somebody who's trained in clinical lactation support right then and there. And when they can't find those resources, it really exacerbates the problem. And I know that I'm not alone in my struggles. Every year, 4 million women give birth, and only 25% of women are meeting their recommended rates for breastfeeding. 92% of women that initiate lactation have problems, and 60% are not even reaching their own breastfeeding goals. And what's more, breastfeeding problems can happen anytime, day or night, 24/7, 365. Babies feed really, really, really frequently. And so there's not a lot of time to figure out from the time that you have a problem to getting the expert help and resources, there's just not a lot of time. And so by the time that you discover you have an infant feeding problem, that problem really needs to be resolved within 3 to 4 hours before it becomes a more urgent care issue. And again, it's not just my own experiences that convince me that women need more support to feed their babies. We know from data, there's not enough trained physicians, nurses, and board-certified lactation consultants to go around. There's staffing shortages everywhere. I also knew that if my lactation consultant was able to help me by phone 14 years ago with really complex feeding problems and be successful, just think what she could have done if she would have had video at the time. It would have been amazing. So I decided to do two things. One, I decided that I was going to become an international board certified lactation consultant myself so that I could help other women, which I did. And two, I was going to help co-found one of the first companies to offer virtual lactation support from anywhere in the United States. And that's what we did. Sonder Health was born 6 years ago to help women all over the country who were just like me. And we've helped women all over the country, thousands of women who are just like you. Our app makes getting connected to board certified lactation consultants really easy, and you're able to do it anywhere using a tablet, smartphone, or computer. And we help you with problems just like the ones that I had. Sore nipples, going back to work, low milk supply, tongue tie, those babies that you feel like, I just fed you, why are you still hungry? Am I ever gonna sleep again? Honestly, any question that you need one-on-one personalized support, we are here to help you meet your needs. It's super simple. You download our app and create an account and log in. Secondly, we have a list of providers, a list of lactation consultants that you can find someone that you feel comfortable to work with, and then have a visit and get one-on-one support to meet your needs. So this is really what it looks like to get help. It's very much like talking with a friend. And the best part is that you have an expert resource in your back pocket anytime you need help so that you can feel confident reaching your own breastfeeding goals. And we even have a digital breastfeeding program that helps you to become an expert in breastfeeding in less than a day. There's over 60 videos of real women showing you what it's like to breastfeed. We have 2 infant feeding experts that talk you through how to troubleshoot issues before they happen. And we have digital handouts that you can reference over and over and over again so that you feel really confident and prepared. Lastly, we've talked today about how important it is to be a part of a larger care team, and we really want you to stay connected with that care team. And so after every visit with a lactation consultant, you can send your pediatrician, your OB, your primary care provider, your feeding care plan, and your medical notes so that you can continue that conversation with your healthcare provider in the event that maybe they don't know enough how to support you clinically on lactation support, or they can give you further medical help that's specific and based on your individual needs. Because the best part about this is that you control this process. It's always transparent. You own your record, and that's exactly how medical care should be. Please do not let lack of resources be a barrier for you being able to succeed and to reach your own breastfeeding milestones. We'd love for you to follow us on social media and stay connected. We are absolutely here to support you. Thank you so much for journey with you today. I really hope that it benefits you and that it helps you on yours. Thanks so much.